Well, I'm sure if I went around the room and asked each one of you to give me one rule that you follow or that you have in your home, you could probably come up with at least one, I'm sure. I bet there's lots of rules that we follow day by day. And so I just want you to think about one of them for you. I was thinking about this week, actually, as my son left our house and slammed the door behind him to go on his way out. It wasn't that the door was hard to close or that he was mad or angry or anything like that. It's just that since he's been a little boy, he has slammed that door shut every time he leaves that. The windows rattle every time he comes in and goes out. So that's one of the rules in our house. Don't slam the door on your way up. My son, I should probably tell you, is 25 years old now. So obviously that's a rule that hasn't worked over time. Sometimes it feels like there are so many rules, doesn't it? And I know that lots of times I can't keep up with all of those rules. But there's one rule that is so important that it has a special name for us in the church. It's known by a special name, and you know that name, the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule is called that because it's the one rule that takes the place of all the others. If you follow this rule, chances are pretty good that you aren't breaking any of the others. So here it is. Treat people in the same way that you would like to be treated. Treat people in the same way that you would like to be treated. And if you're like me, you probably learned it originally as do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which means treat other people in the same way that you would like them to treat you. Or, as Jesus says in today's Bible reading, love your neighbor as yourself. Loving others is the best rule. We call it, of course, the Golden Rule. So it made me wonder what the opposite of golden would be. If gold is the best, and that's the best rule to follow, what would be the opposite? And at first I wondered about stones, because gold is precious, right? And stones are nothing. They're just on the ground. We kick them as we walk along the street. So maybe stones would be the opposite of gold. And then for a minute, I thought about that phrase, spilt milk. And you know, when something goes wrong and we want to kind of get over it, we use this phrase, don't cry over spilt milk. So maybe that's the opposite of golden. And then I heard about the Wooden Spoon Award, which is given to someone who comes in last. I don't know what sport or what competition it's given, but that made me think, well, that's the opposite of gold. Let's just say that the opposite of the Golden Rule is the Wooden Spoon Rule. So I'm going to ask you to think about which one of these ideas fits the Golden Rule. I'm going to name some, and which would fit the Wooden Spoon Rule. Remember, the Golden Rule is about love. The Wooden Spoon Rule is about not loving, about the opposite. So number one, when we lie to keep from getting into trouble, is that the Golden Rule or is that the Wooden Spoon Rule? Wooden spoon. When we forgive someone, the Golden Rule or the Wooden Spoon? The Golden Rule, an act of love to forgive. When we share some food with someone who's hungry, maybe at school or maybe at home or even feeding a pet, Golden Rule or Wooden Spoon? I think that's the Golden Rule, helping somebody out. When we hit back when we're mad, I work with people who hit out when they get mad, and it doesn't end up very well for a lot of them. So that's not the Golden Rule, that's the Wooden Spoon Rule. When we clean up litter along the sidewalk or along the street when we're out, or doing something good for the neighborhood. That is the golden rule. Sometimes there's lots of days when I get the wooden spoon rule right. I'm doing really well with the wooden spoon rule. I wish I wasn't, but I am. And yet there are days when I wish I could just follow the golden rule. And so that's what I encourage you to do maybe this week. We can all try to make a difference by following the golden rule.